Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Make It Simple TV. I am Heather Porter. I'm one of the co-hosts, and in this show, Andrew and myself, we bring in our inner circle of experts from all over the world to talk about simple tips in life and business. Of course, I can't do this alone, so I'm welcomed by my co-host, Andrew McCauley.
Hey, Heather, how are you? Looking forward to the show today. This is our first Olympic athlete. Exciting stuff. She's an awesome, awesome person, and we're looking forward to digging in and finding out what she's been doing lately.
So I have to introduce her, and we've known her for quite a while. So everybody, I'd love to introduce you to Annette Lynch. Now, let me just let you know about her. So from the Olympic stage of beach volleyball to the corporate and conference stages on 3 continents, Annette Lynch is a game changer. The game change was not easy, though. She retired 3 times over 6 years before she took charge to change her game and change her life. She authored Success Beyond Sport, How to Retire from Sport and Keep Winning, and now lives in Hawaii, lucky girl, using her insightful coaching, training, and mentoring skills to help speakers, entrepreneurs, and leaders tap into their own brilliance and get their message out. Welcome, Annette.
Aloha from Hawaii, and thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here with you. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
It's good to see you again. My gosh, guys, we used to travel on the road, Andrew, myself, and Annette, for several years, actually. So we've seen lots of countries together, lots of stressful, interesting situations in the seminar industry together. But before the seminar industry, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to become an Olympian and now ultimately end up in Hawaii.
All right. Well, I'll try and condense a lot into a little, but meaningful. And for me, yeah, my Olympic journey started when I was just 10 years old. I had a massive dream to go to the Olympics. I was a gymnast at the time, and Nadi Comaneci was the darling. And I thought, yep, that's what I want to do. I want to go to the Olympics. Unfortunately, my gymnastics career was over. I was only 16, and my career was over. But I was always asking myself, how else can I pursue my dream? And I went to university. I studied physiotherapy because physiotherapists go to the Olympics. But meanwhile, I'd also started playing volleyball, indoor volleyball. And for me, volleyball was fun, and I really only was ever thinking about the next level. Where can I go from the school team to a regional team to a state team? And from the state team, it took me a little while to make it into the national team, but I made it. And I had quite a turning point with a coach who inspired me to think about, well, what are my goals? And started writing down goals and wanted to be in the national team on a regular basis, to become a captain. Wasn't thinking about the Olympics at this point, but it wasn't until 1993 that beach volleyball was announced as Olympic sport. And for me, I knew with indoor volleyball it wasn't necessarily a dream to go to the Olympics, but with beach volleyball, Australia were a real force on the international scene, and I was one of the top players in Australia. And suddenly my dream was alive. 96 Olympics. Didn't happen. I was ranked number 8 at the end of 94. And my partner decided she wanted to not just go to the Olympics, she wanted to win a medal. So I had to pick up a new partner, and it sort of became a bit of the theme of my life. But I persisted, and that's a big part of my story, persistence, and I made it to 2000. So I represented Australia at the 2000 Olympics playing beach volleyball. And then I retired, and like I said in the bio, it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. I was looking forward to just settling down and living life, and it wasn't really what it was cracked up to be. Most of all, I just wanted to be happy, and that wasn't happening. So I kept going back to sport. Over 6 years, I retired 3 times. And then I started going to seminars, and that was a big turning point again in my life. Professional development, personal development, and it was into the scene where I met the two of you with Breakthrough to Success. Suddenly I realized my life was ahead of me. Up to that point, I'd been living my life behind me as well. I've done what I set out to achieve. I've gone to the Olympics, and I was sort of living my life on that and not even really appreciating it. So 2006, I started attending seminars, and pretty much my life since then has been focused on personal development, my own, and also helping others. I became a coach, a results coach. I became a trainer for the organization. Worked with both of you with that, and finally found happiness with I met my husband online, which is why I'm in Hawaii, and here I am still empowering other people, helping athletes with their transition, and also helping other speakers to get their message out in 3 minutes or less.
I love it. Hey, so obviously sport has been a massive part of your life, and business. We talk a lot of business owners on this show, and a lot of business owners watch this. What are the parallels between, very competitive sport and competitive business, if you like?
Well, there are so many, and it really is about focus. The power of focus. I know when I'm focused on a little bit, like the focus that got me to the Olympics really enabled me to do the things that I need to do that. Whereas I think in business, it's so easy to be distracted by shiny objects and different things. But when you're really clear on what you want, then you can make that happen. There's parallels about teamwork. Commitment makes a big difference to making things happen. How committed are you in your day job? How committed to your tasks in the day? How committed are you to your goals? And then with what I do with helping speakers, it's really about performance. I love performing on a big stage. At the Olympics, I got to play in front of 10,000 people. But performance is not easy for everybody, and it's how do you prepare for that? How do you prepare to be at your best? And a lot of it is up here, as you well know, and how you are thinking about it. All of those things I mentioned, even the focus and commitment, it's all attitudes. And when you can apply that attitude to your business or whatever you're doing, then you can succeed like an athlete. It's finding what is it that you are striving to achieve.
Hey, Annette, I think you have such an amazing background because of what happened with almost a life transition, right? So you actually had to craft and create a new identity for yourself as you left the sporting industry and then created the life as the speaker, trainer, author, mentor. And this is a huge thing for a lot of us nowadays. There's lots of us leaving our corporate jobs and starting up businesses. There's people that are in business and business fails and then has to pick up a new business. What would be your advice for those of us, myself included because I've been there, that have that identity crisis, that are literally, they don't know who they are anymore and they need to go on to the next phase?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that about identity, because that is a really big thing that I'm familiar with and working with athletes as they struggle with that. And the big question is, who am I now that I'm not that athlete, that I'm not in that box, or that I'm not that particular business person, whether it's through redundancy or through, it's the end of your career, retirement, or even empty nesters. Suddenly the kids have left and suddenly you're not the parent. So there's all these various shifts in your life, and if you're really stuck on that label, you put yourself in that box and think that's who you are, then you're holding yourself back. And it's not necessarily about changing your identity, it's about growing and realizing, yep, that is part of you, but you are so much more, and continually looking to expand, to grow. And if you're currently in a role, to not get caught up on that as well while you're doing it. It's like, yeah, it's important to step into an identity to be successful, to allow that to create your success, but you are also, whatever you think you are, you're always more than that, and it is so true.
Good one. So now, got to ask you, get down to more the nitty-gritty details. What is an app or a resource or something in your life that you just simply cannot live without right now?
Absolutely. I'm just going to be, it's very broad. It's the internet in general, because I'm here in Maui, Hawaii. And I don't know if you've looked on a map lately. We are very isolated here in the middle of the Pacific. And I like to think I have a global audience. And, I haven't traveled off the island for quite a while. And the internet allows me to do what I'm doing right here with the two of you and, reaching your audience. It enables me to have Skype phone calls to do my coaching and mentoring. I do webinars. I pretty much do a lot of my work on the internet. So I would be absolutely lost. And I was lost over the weekend, and my modem was fading out. So it is a very apropos question. I couldn't do much. I actually had to just sit back and just live for a while in the present moment, which was really good too.
Imagine that. I've just been through the same, Annette. I lost my computer for 2 weeks while they were trying to fix it up, and it was almost stressful not having the stuff I'm used to having, getting connection with that outside world. So I know what you're feeling on the weekend. So I want to ask you. This is a big part of our show is our 3 simple tips. So what are 3 simple tips that you can share from your expertise with our listeners about life or business?
Okay, well, a big part of my focus is helping speakers and business leaders get their message out. So I thought I'd share with you listeners my 3 simple tips for speaking and how do you get your message out. And, even just getting a message out to one is as important as getting out to many. So the first tip really is keeping it simple. In the theme of make it simple, really, Einstein said if you can't explain it simply, then you don't know it well enough. So you've really got to know your stuff. But if you are doing a presentation, limiting yourself to 3 points. If you are doing more than 3 points, then you are going to confuse your audience, you're going to overwhelm them, and they're going to forget everything you say. Even though you think, wow, I just got so much information to give. I'm going to give so much, I'm going to give so much value, and you're actually devaluing your work because they leave with nothing. So keep it simple and just stick to 3, which is why we're sticking to 3 simple tips. And there's ways, actually, you sort of think, well, if I've got so much information, there's ways of chunking your material so it still sticks to 3. Tip number 2, I'm going to look at my notes. I wanted to be sure which ones I really want to get across. And this is about really being clear on your message, simplifying what it is that you have to say. How can you give the most value? I'm sure I see the stuff that both of you are doing, and you've got so many different strengths and so many things you can teach. But putting that all into what's your signature message and what are you most passionate about delivering, and being really good at that will help you stand out and be the absolute expert. And so, for anyone listening, to think about what is your really core message that you want people to know and for you to be known for. And finally, tip number 3 is about using stories. Stories are a great way to get your message out. And there are different ways of telling stories, from just straight out your story, stories of people you've worked with, and also using stories from movies and metaphors that can help break down the resistance of people's minds so that you can really help change their minds. So how can you use stories to broaden your message? When you keep it simple to 3 main points, the stories is what gives the meat of your presentation.
Yeah.
Are they simple enough?
Very simple. That's great. 3 points, core message, and stories. I think that's starting to become a theme. We're hearing other guests have said, keep that story in mind. Steve Jobs was really good at doing that. He was selling the whole entire Apple community on a story about what they believe in. So I think that's great. We had just a quick little thing. We had a client recently that had a website that had a lot of mixed messages. There's a lot of information on there, and what we looked at was there was too much information, so we boiled it down to 2 or 3 key points, and suddenly become a much more effective website when we could do that. So not just in speaking when you're telling them, when you're presenting a topic, but even on your websites, if you can have one or two core messages rather than a whole bunch of stuff, you're going to find that's more effective too. What do you think, H?
Yeah, I think for us as entrepreneurs, it is the most challenging thing that we all face is simplifying because, like you said, the shiny object syndrome, we've done podcasts and articles on that particular topic, but our minds are always looking for more information, the next thing that might help our business or our clients, and we're constantly latching on to things around us. Do you have advice on how to actually simplify and how to focus?
And I definitely can relate to, because there is so much information out there, and I've subscribed to various newsletters. I get them in, and I really just have to say to myself, like, work really with what I've currently got. I've just got to say, look, I've got that information, and let's make use of what I've got. Focus on that, make that work before broadening out. Don't go for your master's without getting your bachelor's degree kind of thing. It's just doing one step at a time and just constantly stepping back. And before you say yes to something, just think, is that really where I'm at right now? Is that what is important right now?
That is gold. That message is absolute gold for not only a good reminder for ourselves, but for everybody listening. Is generally, you're right. We do already have what we need to take the next step in life or business, and we're best to just stick with that first rather than go outwards. I know in the seminar industry we've all been a part of, there's that term that's not so lightly thrown around, the seminar junkie, right? Because it's constantly jumping from one shiny object, not actually recognizing that everything you need is actually right in front of you to take the next step, probably because the next step is lack of focus, not actually knowing perhaps where to go next. Good simple tip.
And just making sure that, if you are reading something, listening to something, that you're taking notes and thinking, okay, at least take one point from that and use it. It's no use having all this education and everything. I had this client who was like, okay, well, I've got this, I've got this education, I've got this thing, and I'm like, okay, what are you going to use from it? And he was just constantly seeking that education, but it's no use if you're not using it. So create some sort of system so that you do use at least one thing. And sometimes it's just finding a distinction out of material. I'll still be reading stuff, but I'm really got my eyes looked out for what's the distinction, what's something different that I'm not using right now.
Nice. So Annette, now we'd love to know a little bit more about you. I know Andrew and I know quite a bit about you, but why don't you share something with us that not only ourselves, but most people actually don't know about you?
That's such a tough question because I can be an open book. I just wrote a blog that was all about, I just shared a whole lot of the secrets of when things go wrong, and I'm not too easily embarrassed and whatnot, and even in my book, I guess for a long time one of my big secrets was my bulimia, and I don't even know if you know that because I don't know if I shared that, and it almost didn't even make it into my book. So I published my book in 2010, Success Beyond Sport, How to Retire from Sport and Keep Winning. And I was working with a book editor, and she said, there's a bit of a piece missing here. We need to fill this out a little bit more. And it was around values. And I'd just been to a lunch with somebody, a group lunch, and she'd asked us all to share something we hadn't shared with anyone. And I sort of got out of my comfort zone and shared the fact that for at least 15 years of my life I had bulimia. And even while I was competing in sport and everything. And it's something that I overcame, and I sort of knew what the triggers were. And the biggest thing that helped me to overcome that was just deciding, and we talked about identity before, that wasn't who I was anymore. I stepped out of that identity completely to say, no, that's not me anymore. I don't do that, to enable me to move forward. But it took a long time to start sharing that with people, and it was very cathartic, and it's gotten to a point where it's easy to do. I don't get that lump in my throat. And when I started sharing that from the stage with people, it wasn't just to throw it out there, hey, by the way, that's, you know, part of me. But there were times when I needed to share that, and it really helped the connection with my audience, because they suddenly realized that, you know, hey, you know, here I am, this Olympian, I've achieved these major things, but, you know, we all have our issues, our doubts, and our hang-ups, and that, you know, we can overcome them and achieve anything. That I'm not anything special. I'm just a person who had a big dream and went for it.
Thanks for sharing that story as well. I didn't know about that actually. So,
I didn't know
wow.
about it either. There you go. We learned something about you today.
You're reading my book?
I know. Guilty. I'm not.
It's a very niched book. You know, it's specifically targeted towards the athlete in transition. However, I have a lot of other people who've read it and gotten a lot out of it, so I recommend it.
Hey, Annette, what's a quote or a mantra that you like to live your life by?
This came up in my dream last night, actually, and it's a good one. It's basically saying that everything is perfect as it is, and this really helps me in times when things aren't going to plan, and it's like, you know, it should be this way, and it's like, no, this is perfect as it is. And it's funny, like I had this, you know, how dreams go. I suddenly found these things going wrong, and I remember hearing that me say that to myself, and it really does help, because things don't go to plan, and you may get frustrated, and if you're sort of frustrated about it and resisting it, like it shouldn't be like this, it just sticks around. And so by saying that everything is perfect as it is, it allows me to step into a point of allowing things to flow with that, and to think, how can I utilize this situation to my advantage? And it also helps me to step back and think, okay, well, if this is perfect as it is, what's there to learn from this? If something is in my way, what can I learn so I can move forward? So it's all perfect. You know, the internet being down on the weekend was, you know, it was perfect, because it allowed me to focus on being, and we had a big party anyway. I didn't have time.
Love it. I love it. What would you like to be known for?
I would simply like to be known to be an inspiration. You know, I seek to inspire others to be their best, to follow their dreams. That if I can do it, they can do it, basically. But for them to just aspire to be their best, to not settle for anything less, and to not think, well, that's not me. To inspire people to speak up, to get their message out in any way that people can live their fullest potential.
All right. So then here's another one for you. What is one major life lesson that you have learned?
It's learned is sort of a tough word, because it's something I'm constantly learning, and it's about trust. You know, that seems to be, there's always degrees of trust, and there's always deeper levels of trusting things are perfect as they are. So the situations around it, trusting other people, because I consider myself fairly educated, fairly learned, and knowledgeable. And then, you know, when someone else has got suggestions, particularly people close to me, and it's against what I think things should be, I have my own way. Persistence is very close to stubbornness. To trust that, yeah, they have other knowledge and another view of looking at things, and it's different. Like when I'm in a coaching situation, I'm being coached, it's like, yeah, I'm allowing that trust just comes naturally. But when it's coming from other sources, that bringing that in, so I'm constantly learning that, and I've learned a lot over the years.
Very nice.
As we wrap it up, I want to ask you a quick question. I know you've traveled around the world a lot, to all sorts of different places. Can you recall an interesting experience, maybe a funny one that sticks in your mind about travel, or about a certain place that you've been to?
That's a tough one. I can't think. You know, when you started the question, you know, I was thinking about memorable adventures, and you know, I've had some of my wonderful
Is it
adventures
memorable?
because of Heather. Actually, you know, she started through Chris Howard the Billionaire Adventure Club, and I got to go to Peru and Cambodia and South Africa, and interesting, maybe not funny, but you know, in Peru we got to help build a school and mud brick school, and so we had to stamp our feet in this mud, and we were at sort of an altitude, and that mud was really cold, and we had bare feet, and it was painful. It was like we were stamping this mud with sticks and stones in it, and I just right now stepping in it, I was like, wow, that was painful. I was like, man, these people do this just to make these bricks. And then our reward at the end was to have barbecued guinea pig. I won't say whether I partook in that meal or not.
I was actually going to say, I was going to ask you, did you eat the guinea pig? Because I remember hearing this video, this promotional video, over and over again. And the words were, I ate the guinea pig. I ate the guinea pig. I'm like, oh, please. I was going to ask you.
I actually did enjoy the taste of it until I had a piece where I could still see some
That's enough.
Hair.
fur on it. Like, it was like, yeah, that looks too much like a guinea pig. So, but, yeah, I do remember the experience with the actual big condor, and I'd sat down next to it, and it just suddenly sort of had a bite at me, and yes, and John Brands, who I know was on your show recently, he never forgave me, never let me forget that experience. So. Just really memorable times, and you know, I want to go back to Cambodia and you know, be able to give back in some way to kids, particularly. You know, I haven't had the chance to be a mother, and to be able to mother or nurture others in some way is something that I hold is very dear to me. It's sort of part of my big why I keep pushing and persisting and doing what I do.
Lovely. All right. Well, do you have a way for people to get in touch with you and find out about your books and reach out and say hello?
I do. You know, I have my website is AnnetteLynchSpeaking.com, and when they go there, they can subscribe and get a free checklist. And this is all about speaking and getting your message out, how to connect with an audience. And I also have, and through that, they'll get newsletters and learn about my new Your Presentation Blueprint, which is also at yourpresentationblueprint.com. And here I've simplified the whole process of getting your message out. You know, some people get very overwhelmed by how do I put all this information into a simple way and that gets my message across, helps me connect with the audience, put in the various stories. And so I've put everything into, it's a 2-hour training, an audio training, it's evergreen. Whenever they're ready, they can find that there. It's a downloadable product and a workbook that they can systematize and simply work through that. And basically the subtitle is Turning Your Ideas into Presentations That Captivate.
Nice one. And what about you, Andrew? Any last words?
No, thank you, Annette. I'm so glad we got to connect again on the show, and it's great to see you. I haven't seen you in person for a little while, but maybe I'll get out to Hawaii and see you there.
I hope so. And thank you so much for inviting me here. You know, I've been watching your podcasts or your hangouts, and you know, it's great to just pop in and see the various interviews. Very useful information and great tips that I'm looking forward to continuing to watch and to share with my people.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. You can come on over to makeitsimple.tv and watch this video as many times as you want of us talking to Annette and find out more information about her. And make sure when you're there you sign up to get our latest episode so you never miss some of our simple tips. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again, Annette, for hanging out with us. It was good to see you.
Thank you. Well, mahalo, as we say.
All right. Talk to you later.